Let us talk about your alma mater a little bit because there is a quarterback competition going on. You've got a guy from Texas and Jalen Milroe who started a game last year against Texas A&M. Tyler Buckner, the transfer from Notre Dame. Ty Simpson, coach's kid, all duking it out. And you've been in a quarterback competition at Alabama before. What is that like when you are trying to win the starting job on Nick Saban's team?
Mine was a little different than this one. Naturally, I think our competition lasted like 2 or 3 practices.
Star Jackson, right? And then
it was Star, and Star was a good player, but I had kind of really the year before the competition started when John Parker was a senior. John Parker Wilson was the starter. The competition started kind of whoever won the backup job the year before. That was the competition. Then, I started as the starter and I never gave up a rep. I mean, it was just different then. And it was just because the portal wasn't really a thing and you weren't worried about, hey, if this guy loses out, then he's out of here. So now you have to kind of artificially extend competitions, even though you probably don't necessarily have to. But that's just the way, and it makes sense. Like if the portal was open back then, we probably would have been rotating every day. I mean, it's just the way it was. So I think when you look at this one in particular, Jalen Milroe was going to get the first crack at it for sure. And that's in practice. I'm not talking about the first game. He's going to get the first crack at it. He's been there the longest, has earned it. Was the starter last year when Bryce got hurt. And made a lot of really nice plays as a backup quarterback last year. Ty Simpson, they've been very excited about. They've been really looking forward to seeing what he can do now when he finally gets that opportunity. I think Ty is a really cerebral guy. I think he's a really intelligent guy in a sense that he's a pleaser. He's a coach's kid. He wants to do right, and I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself. Because he wants to be perfect, and being perfect is just impossible. I mean, did you ever have a game or a practice in your life where you graded out 100?
I've never had anything I've done that I was perfect in. Never had a show, never had a story that was perfect. Well, never.
Pass fail to me, pass is 100, fail is 0. So like you probably in some pass fail situations. I as well logged a couple hundreds there, but not many. Perfection is unattainable in this sport because you have to make split-second decisions, and it's not, and your footwork, and you're dependent on other guys, and that guy's got to be perfect on his route for me to be perfect on my throw. And if he's short, I'm late, and if he's deep, I'm early, and if my right tackle gets beat inside and I step left, then guess what? That D ends in my lap, and I should have stepped right, but I had to make that from an instinct. That's not even like it's not a conscious decision. That's purely instinctive. And those take reps to develop. So I think he probably has an insanely high standard for himself and probably puts a little too much pressure on himself. And as a result, maybe doesn't always play with the confidence that he's capable of playing with. And then Ty Buckner is a guy that just hasn't played a lot at all. I think his story is at this point pretty well documented. Missed his senior year of high school in 2020 in California. They canceled it because of COVID. In 2021, he was a spot player, a situational guy for Notre Dame. Talked to Brian Kelly. We did the opener that year. Notre Dame played against Florida State. We did that game. And we were talking to Brian Kelly before the game. We're like, hey, look, Jack Cohn's our starter, but you're going to see this kid, Tyler Buckner. He's got a lot of juice, and we just have to get him involved. He's a guy that we have really high hopes for and really high expectations for. And we just have to sprinkle him in a little bit. He's not ready to be the guy, but we got to sprinkle him in because we are doing ourselves a disservice by keeping him on the sidelines for 60 minutes of the game. So he got a little time there and did some nice things, but was really more within a package. Last year was supposed to be the guy. Hurts his shoulder there in the second game of the season. So basically 2 of the last 3 years he's missed, and the one he played was situational. So he just hasn't played a lot of football. And I think he's still trying to develop the timing, the speed, the efficiency, the processing, those parts of playing the game that come with repetitions he just hasn't had. So if everybody were equal, as far as the ceiling, Milroe's got the highest ceiling. He's got unbelievable speed and athleticism. He's extremely dynamic. If everything breaks down and everything goes haywire and all 10 guys offensively totally bust, he can still turn nothing into something. Simpson has to stay within the offense a little bit more, but he's the best pure passer by a fairly wide margin from an accuracy standpoint, from pushing the ball down the field standpoint, from a consistency and decision-making standpoint. He's the best option there. And then Buckner is a blend of both. I don't think people realize how big he is. He's a physical runner, and he's got pretty good juice himself. Now I think he's just developing a little bit more of the accuracy stuff that's going to come with repetition. So I think they have three good options. Everyone says if you have three, you have none. I don't agree with that. I think that's an old school and archaic way of thinking, because if all three have different skill sets, then you have three different offenses that you as a defense might have to prepare for. So ultimately, I've said it on this platform, I've said it on other platforms, I still think it's going to be Ty Simpson in the long run, but I would be absolutely shocked if Milroe and Buckner don't have a role within the offense.
Well, would you expect him to play a couple against Middle Tennessee? And then
why wouldn't you? You know,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's really important because you can try to create competition and evaluate the quarterbacks, but the playing field is not level for evaluation. If the guy is running with the ones and has the starting offensive line, which is one of the best in college football, and experienced wide receivers on the perimeter, even if they're going against the ones or the twos defensively, that guy with that supporting cast is going to have a significant advantage over the backup quarterback or the guy that's running with the twos that day with a backup offensive line and the backup wide receivers and the inexperienced wide receivers. It's hard to have enough reps or hours in the day to evaluate every single guy on an even playing field. So the only way you can really do that is in live game situations where the starters are out there, and guess what? In goes one guy, he goes in for a couple series, in goes the next guy, he goes in for a couple series, you assess it, you ride the hot hand, you evaluate the game after the fact, and then maybe the guy that grades out better starts the following week. So I think that's the only way to really assess it, because if people all will look at the first scrimmage and say, well, Milroe lit it up, Ty Simpson didn't. Ty Simpson was running with the twos
right
against the one defense. That's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
if you light that up, you're going to be the starter.
No doubt. Like they actually came out of that scrimmage saying, man, he played great, because that's an impossible situation to be in. So Milroe was with the ones against the twos and had a really nice day. He did what he was supposed to do. So now it's kind of putting those days together. And I think that competition will probably leak into the first week of the season.